naturalism, ontological necessitarianism through an actualism. Here's the problem. If a species did not speciate into mammal, but cats evolved from it, then cats are not mammal. And I'll reply to that having laid out my naturalism using some formal logic. So I'll start with ontology, what there is, and metaphysics, especially a logic of existence, and what history is in relation to metaphysics, and cosmology, because metaphysics and cosmology are two things, and come back to life, ecology, nature, and how it is there could have been an alternative nature with an alternative biology in the actual world. So ontology, well, existence, if we use domain quantification, the widest, the unrestricted domain, existence, if we use a constant domain, we can talk about what's colloquially exist, living using concreteness. That's just Timothy Williamson's way to treat the problem. And one application is that we can understand the semantics of Adolf Hitler is that because Adolf Hitler, it has a reference because he exists necessarily given the constant domain even after he's dead, but he is no longer concrete. So, and kind terms are similar. So dinosaurs are extinct. The predicate, it still refers to a certain kind, although it has no extension at this moment in the actual world. So it is real, but it is none of them is concrete. So then metaphysics. So we have the world and we want to study its reality. So there's not only the actuality, the reality, there's a modality to the world. So we understand it using possible worlds. But there are some worlds that are not possible, although it seems so. So they're fictitious worlds, worlds in which there are phlogiston, so the domain. It seems variable, but those worlds with an alternative domain, it's not real. It seems possible, but it's only fictitiously so. So in science, we might sometimes conjecture substances that are not real, fictitious, and one day we discover that it doesn't belong to the domain. So an actuality, given the possible world theory of modality, we can understand actuality using the actual world. So that's how we think about history, and history could have been different. There are possibilities that are real, and there are possibilities that are not real, that are merely fictitious, and possibilities are simply ways the actual world could have been. And a fact is, roughly put, an object with some properties. So object instantiating property constitute a fact. So in the actual world, some object could have instantiated some other properties, and that's a real possibility of the object. So that's history, metaphysics. So with this at the background, cosmology, one big event in cosmology is the Big Bang. So if it is possible that it's otherwise, that it happened differently at different time, or even not at all, then there could have been an alternative universe with different galaxies. And especially given the Big Bang, the initial, there are some something that's constant, especially given matter conservation. So the same matter with different initial condition during the Big Bang, when it happens, it is the same world with different galaxies, and the difference in galaxy would have constituted a difference in universe. So that's same world, alternative universe, and that's how I see cosmology, because that's how metaphysics and history interact, and cosmology will be history dependent, depending on how the Big Bang happened. So to come back to life, vitality, because even if the Big Bang happened differently, chemistry is still the way it is. What constitutes life, what chemical arrangement of molecules would have constituted life, it's still the same law. Although with different environment, especially in different alternative universe, the difference in environment, evolution, survival of the fittest, very roughly put, would have resulted different with different biology, different life forms. So, and ecology, how life evolved in interaction with environment, holding chemistry, and how life is constituted fixed, holding those laws fixed. We could have had a different, well, there could have been a different biology. And so when we think about biology and a vitality conception in terms of life, nature could have been different, because life has various life form, life and its variety, and what variety there is depends on history. Suppose the world is, suppose the earth is covered with water without any ground. So life would have evolved differently, perhaps without any animals like bipeds like us, because we don't need to walk on the ground, right? So, so there are, well, and then maybe some other life forms would have evolved. So there are non-actual life forms that's chemically possible. And the Kanti mouse highlights the fact that biology is not always chemically engineered. Even to grow something like an ear for human surgery, it needs to be done on something living. So here's a summary. I started with ontology using quantification, predicalogical domain to understand ontology, and metaphysics, variable domain, and the fictitiously variable domain using constant domain existence, and history, how we interact with metaphysics to understand cosmology and how the Big Bang, the difference in how it happened, would have resulted in difference in biology through ecology holding chemistry fixed, how it is that life is chemically constituted. So it is how nature could have been different, that the naturalism, the ontology of what there is depends on history. Although given history, what there is necessarily the way it is. So with this at the background, to respond to the problem is this: possible worlds forever without concrete mammals instantiate a nature with the actual kind. So there are the kind, mammals, mammalia. It's still real. It is still a kind, but it has a now extension forever in that possible world. But that let's say the property of being mammal is still real, given the actual world being the way that it is, because that's how nature is actually determined. So correspondingly, unicorns is fictitious because it is, well, it is not how the way in which nature is determined. Well, so very roughly put, the to understand that using rigid designation, worlds in which Adolf Hitler and his parents never met, the word refers to Adolf Hitler in those worlds. And worlds in which there are no mammals, mammal still refers to the kind, even though the kind has no extension for all eternity. So whether Adolf Hitler has a reference, it depends on history, but it is still a necessary existence, and similarly for kind terms. Thank you very much.